What is up everyone? In today's video we're going to be discussing and ranking Precure super forms. If you're wondering why I'm doing super forms and not the regular forms, it's because honestly I think a lot of Precure regular forms look fine already. I don't really look at any of the default forms and think, dang, this design sucks, I wish it could be better. The only complaints I have with regular forms is of course color opinions, but when it comes to super forms, they're either really beautiful or really ugly, so much more divisive here. And before we start this is all just my opinion, please don't be offended, you have your own opinion, I have mine. Let's get started. We're going to be starting in series order, starting with Futari wa Precure Max Heart's gold forms, which appear in the first movie. I mean, those are certainly their default forms, just in gold. Nothing really special here. Also, let it just be known that my criteria for a good super form is that it needs to look more beautiful than the default form. They're upgrades after all. In the second Max Heart movie, Black, White, and Shiny Luminous get super forms again. Super Cure Black and White and Phoenix Shiny Luminous. They look absolutely terrible. It looks like they're wearing clothing that is 3 sizes too big for their bodies. Everything is just terribly oversized. Cure Black's hair is just awful looking with a huge exaggerated spike. Cure White's off the shoulders become super triangular and just gaudy. The 4 spikes in the back are just crazy looking. And Shiny Luminous's one looks equally way too oversized and terrible. Many years ago I came across this fan art, what appears to be a Mode Elegant form for Cure Black, and ironically this would have been a much better super form for any of the ones that were given to her. It looks pretty beautiful actually. Now on to Futari wa Precure Splash Star. In Precure Splash Star, Cure Bloom and Cure Egret upgrade into Cure Bright and Cure Windy starting in episode 30, when their Mixed Commune set upgrades into the Crystal Commune set. This is pretty much the only case of Precure changing their name once they upgrade into a super form. There are a few cases like Cure Angel and Dream Cure Grace technically, but they're not as emphasized. If there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I think Cure Bright has one of the ugliest designs in the entire Precure franchise. First of all, the color palette, it's not pleasing to look at. The strong highlighter yellow, which is my least favorite shade of yellow, with bright green and burgundy, it looks crazy. Second, it's way too bulky. The arm warmers with the leg warmers with those round shoulders. I do love round shoulders, but here they're too bulky. And next, the spikes jutting out from them are very tacky. They clash with the flowy part of the skirt, which I also don't like that because it just looks like a blanket hanging out from the skirt. Also hate the knee pads and the top of the leg warmers. Just a really tacky design with terrible colors. Now Cure Windy, her design isn't as bad. I think I just have the ugly association with it because she's next to Cure Bright all the time. My favorite part of it would have to be the pink wrap around her shoulders. It kind of gives those goddess vibes. And I do like the little pink bows on the leg warmers. But overall, just really not the best looking super form for me. In Precure All-Stars DX2, Cure Bright and Cure Egret get new super forms along with everyone else. This one's called Cure Rainbow Brighty Bloom, and then we have Cure Rainbow Windy Egret. Genuinely look terrible, and don't worry, this show just had a really rough start for the first 3 seasons when it came to super forms. The outfits are 3 sizes larger than their actual bodies, but I'm actually going to rank Rainbow Brighty Bloom above Cure Bright, only because I see the potential in this color palette. I like the pink with the light green and yellow. There was potential there. Cure Rainbow Windy Egret. This one I actually like the leg warmers. They look pretty. In the Precure 5 movie, the 5 Cures get these super forms which basically just give them butterfly wings and a few ruffles to their outfits. Nice and simple. Really just goes to show how effective a simple looking super form can be. They get the point across instead of having all these tacky details. In the Precure 5 Go-Go the movie, Cure Dream gets her own super form known as Shining Dream. Shining Dream is decent, but honestly I prefer Cure Dream's super form from the first movie, Super Cure Dream, with those simple but really iconic butterfly wings. It's just such an awesome look for her, for a really great movie, and it goes with the theme of Precure 5 being butterflies. Shining Dream goes for an angel motif instead. It looks decent, but it's just not my fave. Also, interestingly, in 2023, for Precure's 20th anniversary, they had a line of merch featuring every Cure in their super form, and they went with Super Cure Dream instead of Shining Dream, so I guess maybe it really is the more popular option. The rest of the Precure 5 girls get their own Shining equivalents in Precure All-Stars DX2 and 3, I believe. These ones I actually do like more than Shining Dream because their jackets feature a pastel version of their main color instead of white. And I do like white in super forms, but it really just depends. I also really like how their skirts become very tutu-like with the extra layer. I really love a round and ruffly skirt. And I like the pink roses on the brooches. There are some tacky elements, like for Cure Mint and Cure Aqua, the sleeves extending from the shoulder puffs are way too long, but overall these forms look pretty decent. Milky Rose's rainbow form looks pretty solid as well. Now we're on to Fresh Precure, where the super form has a renaming situation, kind of like Cure Bright and Cure Windy in Splash Star. Here, the Cures are collectively known as Cure Angel. Cure Peach gets this form first in the movie, thanks to the Miracle Lights, and the rest of the Cures get their Angel forms in the finale after the people of Labyrinth cheer them on. These forms look pretty good. Let's start with Cure Angel Peach. This form, I really like how the front bows become extra long and exaggerated. She also gains these dark garter socks. Those add some nice contrast to the outfit. But what I love most about the super form is the super frilly train on the back of her skirt. Peach, Berry, and Pine have the super frilly train on the back of their dresses, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Next is Cure Angel Berry. This form looks really similar to her default form, which I don't mind at all because I'd rather a super form look closer to the original than adding a bunch of crazy elements that make it look overdone and tacky. And interestingly, unlike everyone else, she gets these really odd airplane-shaped wings, which a lot of people don't like, but I actually do. I think they give her a unique, bold look. I like how they're randomly angular and airplane-shaped. Maybe because she is taller than everyone else, so it kind of fits into the whole slender, sharper look. Next, we're on to Cure Pine Angel form. This one is probably my least favorite, but it really doesn't look that bad. It's just a little too bulky because her shoulder pads become lengthened, as well as her armbands become really puffy and huge, like pumpkins. I think they should have stuck to either one. Either the sleeves become large, or either the arm puffs become big, but just not both of them. I like how her wings are rounder than everyone else's. It really fits her personality and character. I also like how her hair bow is super sharp. And finally, we have Cure Angel Passion. What I like about her super form is that they did not omit any of the deep red or especially the black. And I say this because the other Cures get lighter versions of their costumes, so I'm really glad they didn't sacrifice the deep red and black for something ugly like a pastel red and like a gray even for the black. So I'm glad they kept that. I like how her tights become garters. They look pretty badass. It's obviously meant to match Cure Angel Peach. I do wish the shoulder pads were a little bit smaller, but overall it's a really good super form that doesn't change too much about the original form. Alright guys, time for some of the heaviest hitting Precure super forms in the entire franchise. These are Heartcatch Precure's super silhouette forms. They get these forms in episode 37 after completing the trials within the Precure Palace, fighting against these counterparts which are the Mirage Precure. After completing that, they get the Heartcatch Mirage and they're able to turn into super silhouette form and use Heartcatch Orchestra. These forms are absolutely perfect. I love them so much. They look both elegant and very badass. For the first time so far, I can say that I prefer these super forms over the Cure's default looks, which, like I said at the beginning, is my requirement for a super form. The long white gloves and boots, though in Marine's case, socks. Love the little heart brooch crowns, and I especially love that their petal skirts become super sharp, really tying in the badass element to these otherwise very innocent looking outfits. They look so battle ready. Lastly, the iridescent glowing hearts that act as their wings is such a unique and beautiful look. Yeah, well, either working as wings or a halo. More so a halo. Back in 2015 when I was in high school, Heartcatch Precure was my favorite season, and instead of Cure Mint as my favorite Cure, Cure Sunshine was my favorite, and I used to be so obsessed with how she looked in her super silhouette form. Before I knew how Precure All-Stars movies worked, I really was hoping that they would appear in Haru no Carnival of all things in their super silhouette forms, but of course that did not happen. I will say though, I think I do prefer Cure Moonlight's default form over her super silhouette form. It still looks great, don't get me wrong, but I do like the deep indigo purples of her default form and also the dark purple in her waist ribbon and the loose flowing dress over the spiky dress. Again, it still looks good, but I think I'm leaning more towards her default form. In Precure All-Stars DX2, Cure Blossom and Cure Marine get these movie-exclusive forms that only appear for a few minutes, Rainbow, Cure Blossom, and Marine. They're really just not as good as the super silhouette forms. Well, that was fun while it lasted, because now we're moving on from some of the most beautiful super forms to some of the ugliest. Here we have Sweet Precure's Crescendo forms. Oh my goodness, these forms are just terrible. We first see the Crescendo form appear for Cure Melody alone in the Sweet Precure movie. The other Cures don't get their Crescendo forms in the movie, but they get them in the series finale. This form, where do I start with this form? It's giving Cure bright levels of ugly. Okay, let's start with Cure Melody's default design. I think Cure Melody has an absolutely beautiful default form. It was a very bold decision for the character designer, Akira Takahashi, to give the Sweet Precure Cures these really elaborate tutus. They're extremely detailed, not just the tutus, but also their sleeves. Very roughly, there's so many lines you have to draw. And with this Crescendo form, you are essentially just laying on random shit on top of the tutus, actually removing the tutus, and just putting white fabric on top of them and a pink fabric on top of them. And also these really ugly yellow spikes poking out. Talk about a downgrade. Imagine having a beautiful tutu for your regular form, and then for the upgrade, you lose that and you just get this ugly skirt. I really am not liking these super big feathery shoulder pieces. It's very tacky, it's very unflattering, and to top it all off, she gets these really, really ugly golden wings. Pretty much the same issue with the other Cures. Cure Rhythm and Beat get their tutus replaced with these ugly skirts. Cure Muse looks the most decent because the yellow actually goes with her outfit, but it still really doesn't look that great. The default forms of the season are way better. Thankfully, we really don't see these forms that much at all, because in the Attack, Sweet Session Ensemble, the Cures are in their default forms. All-Stars, which was such a good decision. Like Blossom and Marine, Melody and Rhythm also get super forms that appear in the All-Stars movies for a few minutes only, these being Super Cure Melody and Cure Rhythm, tacky, big, and oversized. That really seems to be the design principle for these very brief appearing super forms in the All-Stars films. Like night and day, we're moving on from most beautiful to most ugly to most beautiful again, because now we are on Smile Precure's princess forms. I absolutely adore the princess forms of Smile Precure. They first get these forms in episode 23 after they get the princess candles to use their new attack, Rainbow Burst. So what I love about the princess form is that it's really simple yet really intricate at the same time. Essentially, it's a frilly white dress that's placed on top of their main outfit, and also an additional change to each of their hairstyles. The dress itself is empire waisted, so it flows from the chest area. It's super elegant. They have these huge ruffle sleeves, which look really majestic and powerful. And the ribbons from their default form change in color from their regular base color to this glowing iridescent rainbow. But of course, in some artworks, they're the regular colors, probably just to save time on the drawing. The Cures also get these glowing halos around their heads and super intricate crowns. These crowns are low-key hard to draw, full of details. Now let's talk about the Cure's individual hairstyles. Cure Happy's, her hair just gets longer, but she still looks great. Cure Sunny has the hugest change from all the hairstyles. Her bun becomes this long style with this bow-shaped hair on top. It's really beautiful, and I just love that contrasting change of the hair. It was such a good decision. Cure Peace's hair gets a little bit wavier. Cure March's hair, her pigtails get a little bit curled at the ends, but what I do love is that her tiara is just omitted completely from this, because in this form, the Cure's tiara piece, they're just gone and replaced by the main golden crown. I like this especially in Cure March's case because I don't like her tiara in her main form. I think it's too clunky and crowds her face, especially because her hair is already so big and voluminous, so having the crown and the forehead removed is a really good decision. And lastly, we have Cure Beauty, whose hair change is the second most drastic. She gets this Sonic the Hedgehog style spiky hair, which I think looks so badass and really gorgeous. Some people don't like it, some people love it. I think it's really awesome. She really looks like a warrior snow princess. These forms are just so good to me. They're just peak. Again, like I said, simple yet really elegant. And I really wish we got to see the Cures fighting in them individually. We really only see Happy fighting in this form individually in the Cinderella episode 39. But hey, at least the Cures in Smile at least had individual fight scenes near the end of the series. You can't say the same things about a lot of other seasons, especially recent seasons, because it seems like they really want to emphasize the whole teamwork thing. Unfortunately, we must end on a bad note with Smile Precure, because although the princess form is peak and absolutely beautiful, we get another form in this season, which is the Ultra form. I really do not like the Ultra forms of Smile Precure. Essentially, they take a lot of the intricate, elegant details from the princess form and they simplify them to where they just look tacky and generic in my opinion. And for those of you who are thinking this is contradictory, because at the beginning of the video I said that too many details can look tacky and overdone, and here I'm saying that oversimplification looks bad, it really just depends on the design. For me, it really just is a case-by-case basis, and this one, they're removing a lot of the gorgeous details in the princess form. The main case of this is the removal of the really roughly billowy dresses in favor of these very simple, generic looking feather dresses. Instead of all those ruffles, you just get these feather shapes. That's the biggest crime. The second biggest crime is the removal of those iridescent glowing bows and just giving them simple wing bows. Why? From beautiful to ugly. They get these puff sleeves, which are very underwhelming and generic compared to the powerful ruffle sleeves from before. And the third biggest crime, the removal of the intricate crowns in favor of these chunky generic looking ones. If this is supposed to be upgrade, why does the crown get dumbed down? The obvious answer is because they were fighting in these forms in the final episode, so they wanted to make it easier to animate, but still. They also lose their individual shoes in favor of the same asymmetrical thigh-high boot and regular boot. And just a heads up, there will be a form in another season where they are all identical, and I absolutely love that one, so it really just depends. And the last thing is, although they had really cool hairstyles in the princess form, they become way too overdone in this form. Cure Peace, especially, her hair is way overdone. In the movie, however, Cure Happy does get her own more fleshed out version of the Ultra form. It does look slightly better than her form in the show, but really the princess form is the best. You really can't beat the princess form. In Doki Doki Precure, every Cure except Cure Heart doesn't have a super form, which I'm grateful for, because I'd rather there in a season be no super form than for them to get something potentially tacky. Instead, for the final group attack, Royal Lovely Straight Flush, they all just get angel wings, which I'm completely fine with, plus they all look very badass getting their little wings, especially Sword, who looks at the camera with absolute mystery in her eyes. As for Cure Heart's super form, she gets two. The first super form is in the movie, which is Cure Heart Engage mode. Get it? Engage, because it's a wedding theme movie. This form is pretty elegant, it's a lovely looking dress, dress. Okay, blueprint for Go Princess Precure Mode Elegant, but no, I wouldn't say it reminds me of Mode Elegant at all. The dress has its own kind of flow to it, whereas the Mode Elegant dresses have a fullness to them. I would say a more roundness, well, like, except your mermaid, who has a mermaid style dress. But this dress, it's very loose, very ruffly. There are some transparent pieces too. I think she looks lovely in it. I also just found this artwork of Pure Heart in her engaged mode, and she looks absolutely pretty in this one. In the final episode's battle, we see the debut of Pure Heart Parthenon mode, which she uses to fight against Proto Jikoju. This form is basically her default form, but with a large cape, some additional ruffles in the shoulder area, and these white wings. Her main outfit goes from regular pink to a very pale pastel pink. This final form is really simple, but it really works. I like the name for this form as well. Parthenon refers to a temple in Greece dedicated to Greek goddess Athena, goddess of war. Really has those angelic goddess vibes. And now we're on to Happiness Charge Innocent forms. Easily a top tier form for me. They're just so pure, elegant. Yes, they are unified, and I know in some cases, like with the Smile Precure Ultra forms, I said that they were ugly and too simplified, but like I said, Ultra form is just downgrade from Princess form, and this one actually looks good. But I love the pure white look of these forms, and the pop of color being the skirt, which has the 4 colors of the Cures, of course. Love the long white gloves and white boots with bows on them. Also love the really ruffly shoulders. The white bows in their hair with the gold heart also really just screams elegance to me. My most favorite thing about these forms would have to be the iridescent glowing butterfly or ribbon wings that they have. They look so beautiful, animated, very powerful looking. And another thing I like about the super form, the innocent form, is that they're actually fighting in this form a lot in the show. Unlike a lot of super forms, especially in recent seasons where they're only used for the group attack and that's it. They don't even have them in certain shots after the attack. I even like the makeup in this form. Yes, it does look silly and exaggerated, but I feel like it adds to the charm. Also, interestingly, during the innocent purification attack sequence, the makeup is subdued and barely visible. The one thing I don't like about the super form is specifically in Pure Lovely's, there's randomly a tie in her hair at the very end of it, removing the flow of the hair. Other than that, I love the innocent form so much. And then Pure Lovely gets her individual super forms, one in the Happiness Charge Precure movie, which is Super Happiness Lovely, and one in the finale, which is Forever Lovely. It's like the whole ballerina theme. It's alright to me. Not my favorite. I actually just prefer the innocent form much more. And then we have Forever Lovely. What I don't like about this form the most is that the arm cuffs, they just kind of remove the elegant silhouette. It looks very bulky with those huge arm cuffs. Just not a fan of this one. Innocent form for the win. Now we're on to Go Princess Precure. In this series, the Cures have multiple super forms through their different Mode Elegant. The dresses are essentially just their default outfits, but with ball gowns replacing the skirts, though some do change up the top half. And this idea of the default form, just adding something on top of it, is very similar to Smile Precure Princess form. Starting with Cure Flora, her default Mode Elegant looks absolutely iconic. We see this in the Blu-ray artwork, and you just know Cure Flora from this big ball gown. Then we have the Rose dress. This one is okay, but it's not as good as my favorite Cure Flora Mode Elegant, which is the Lily. This one looks absolutely gorgeous. The white really pops compared to the red of the Rose form. Next, Cure Mermaid's dresses. Her default Mode Elegant looks absolutely awesome. I like that. Unlike the other princesses, she has a mermaid style dress, very slender, just like a mermaid. I like this cascading spiral ruffle. Then we have her ice dress. It's alright, but again, like her Flora's second form, it's not as good as her Mode Elegant bubble dress. This one is absolutely awesome. I like that she gains these bubble sleeves, very Eternal Sailor Senshi, very Cure Milky. She also has this wide queen-like collar in the back, and her dress is extremely mermaidish with an ombre from blue to green. Next, Cure Twinkle. Her default Mode Elegant looks great, looks awesome. I love the incorporation of purple and also the stars and jewels on the sides. And next is a really good one. This is Cure Twinkle's Mode Elegant Luna form. Love the moon theme, the earrings, and the off-the-shoulder shawl. She really looks like a fortune teller or some kind of priestess, and the purple is replaced by a blue. And the third is Cure Twinkle's Shooting Star Mode Elegant. This one's my least favorite, but it doesn't look too bad. I do like that the sleeves have this striped pattern to resemble shooting stars, but I do think the purple and blue in the other dresses looks much better than the pinkish tones here. And lastly, we have Cure Scarlet. She only has one Mode Elegant because at this point in the series, they were going to get their main super form later on, so there really was no point in creating more Mode Elegants for her. I'm going to have to say this is my least favorite of the 4 girls because it's too bulky. Looking at Cure Scarlet's default form, I like it, but it's already very top heavy with the large feather shoulders, the extremely large flowing fabric in the arms, but this is balanced out by the fact that the bottom of her outfit is very loose, flowing, and skinny. I would have preferred if in this form they omitted the fluffy shoulders, the fabric in the arms. Either one. The main super form that the Cures get in this season is called Mode Elegant Premium. They first get this attack in episode 30 once they obtain the Music Princess Palace to defeat Locke using their attack Eclat Espoir. The Cures get these long, white, elaborate dresses that make them look really tall, but that's because the Cures are actually floating in this form. These dresses are quite beautiful. They look elegant, but I much prefer the other Mode Elegant forms. For Cure Scarlet, what I do like in her Mode Elegant Premium is that the large feathery red shoulders become minimized, making the outfit much more flattering. In episode 39, they upgrade from Mode Elegant Premium to Mode Elegant Royal, which is basically the same thing, but they get these beautiful, really intricate, lacy bow wings on the back. I think these look absolutely gorgeous, and obviously they had to do these in 3D because there was no way they were going to animate those intricate, lacy details. I do wish they switched the names around, with this form being called Premium and the first form being called Royal, because Premium sounds much more powerful and exclusive than Royal, which sounds pretty ordinary, especially because this is a princess-themed season. In episode 49, the Cures get another upgrade, which is the Grand Princess forms. Okay, a huge 180 here because I absolutely hate these forms. They basically get all identical yellow gold dresses, but unlike Innocent form, the dresses are just not very stylish to me. They get these yellow capes, which I don't like. I just find them tacky. The individual Mode Elegance and even Premium and Royal are much better than this tacky mess. They can be Grand Princesses while still having their previous beautiful dresses. Come on now. Cure Flora also gets her own individual special Grand Princess form when she fights Close in the final episode. I hate this one too. I think it looks lame. This is definitely a case of Smile Precure Ultra form. Just looks plain generic. Imagine her fighting in Mode Elegant instead. Yes, with the ball gown. That would have been awesome. In the Go Princess Precure movie, they get Mode Elegant Halloween. I actually like these forms. They're fun and playful, and they're much better than the Grand Princess dresses. Next, we're on the Mahotsukai Precure. Here we have the Alexandrite forms. They get these forms in episode 31, where they obtain the Rainbow Carriage and the Linklestone Alexandrite. They use this form to defeat Labu, who's that giant orange guy. The Alexandrite forms grew on me over time. I remember not liking them back when the season first aired, but now I absolutely love them. I think they have a perfect balance of badass and elegant. This one just has those innocent, frilly elements, but also warrior-like elements, if that makes sense. In terms of elegant, innocent aspects, I am so obsessed with this ruffly wraparound hanging below from the skirt. It's super elegant. I love how there's ribbons adorning it. They decide to go a little bit extra where we see gold chains kind of hanging around it as well. I kind of like the random asymmetry we have going on. We have a gold bracelet for one leg and a red ribbon on the other one. The puff shoulders get these feathery, frilly sleeves on them, which I like. And in terms of those badass warrior-like elements, those would be the cape and the hat. I really love the witch hats. It really puts the nail in the coffin that these are seasoned witches who know their craft, and they've upgraded going from the little hats to these actual witch hats, and they look super powerful. I also like the roses with the green ribbons in the hats. Overall, just a really cool looking super form. Cure Magical Alexandrite looks really elegant as well. She forgoes the black gloves for transparent sleeves instead, which looks really good. Again, my most favorite part is the ruffly portion at the bottom of the skirt. She matches Meat Eye with the ribbon on one leg and the gold brace on the other, and the feather on her witch hat gives her that seasoned, powerful magician vibe. Now, Cure Felice, I would say, has my least favorite of the Alexandrite forms. The dress is elegant, but her default form is just a lot prettier. I also think this bun, this wraparound bun on her head is a little bit too big. I would have preferred if it was a lot smaller, like Sailor Pluto style small. But there's a few elements I do like. I like the rose with the green ribbon wrapping around the dress at the bottom. This form is much improved, in my opinion, in the movie version, which is the Heartful style. Starting with Cure Felice, comparing her Alexandrite form to her Heartful style, she loses the white shawl cape completely, and the transparent long sleeves and collar go from a teal green to a spring green, which automatically makes the design 100 times better. It just looks fresher and more vibrant. The other Cures I do not like in Heartful style. The colors become way too pale and washed out, with Cure Magical having the biggest downgrade with all the pretty dark purple tones going to this white and looks a mess. Cure Mofudu in Heartful style I also think looks pretty bad. Her default form just has wonderful asymmetry, which I love. I love how she has one striped stocking, one striped glove. Those are basically absent in the super form for something very generic looking. I also really loved her mismatched pink and purple knee guards. So stylish. Now we're on to Kirakira Precure a la mode. This becomes a trend of superform naming that I absolutely hate, where they basically name the superform after the season, which feels very boring to me and doesn't make sense. In this case, the superforms are called a la mode style, which is confusing because wouldn't the main default forms be considered a la mode style because they're Kirakira Precure a la mode? That's basically like if the super silhouette forms were called hard catch forms instead. I would have called a superform something like, for example, delightful form, glacé form. Starting with Cure Whip superform, I don't like this one. I think it removes a lot of details from her main form that I absolutely love. I really like how her default form has a ribbon with a strawberry in the center and this pretty button corset. In her super form, it's essentially all removed in place for this random generic heart. Just looks awful to me. Her puff sleeves become these fluffy puff sleeves, which not particularly fond of either. The really fun asymmetry in her ears is also removed. Just not a fan of this super form. Again, like I said, an example of bad simplification. In the now dysfunction in Precure Puzzle game, there is a card featuring Ichika in this strawberry dress. Now this would have been perfect for her super form if it was basically this, but with her Cure hair, of course. And next we're on to Cure Custard super form. This one is pretty decent. I like how her hair goes from a side ponytail to completely let down. She has this kind of shawl thing. She looks dressed for the winter. She looks like she's about to save a village from a snowstorm. It has a nice elegant look to it. Cure Gelato super form, really good. It's a much more elegant and badass version of her default form. Her hair becomes nice and long, and her boots are completely changed with the one sock being replaced by one single boot. She honestly looks a bit older in this form, but I think she looks really cool. Next, we're on to Cure Macarons a la mode style, which, like Cure Whips, has a bodice that I don't like, though it is pretty and whimsical overall. The bodice loses a bunch of beautiful details that were in her default form. She had a unique corset design. Love the neckline in the original and how it's scalloped, and she loses that in favor of this really simple fluff, really generic, really underwhelming. I do like how overly purple it is though, which you can say about all purple Cures, but I don't know. This one just has a whimsical purple fantasy vibe. Next, we're on to Cure Chocolat's a la mode form, which it's not bad. I can definitely see that an attempt was made to make it unique. At least it has some unique bodice details. There's kind of that soldier or general buttoning in the middle. She gets these thigh-high boots with golden drip at the top, and she has an ascot. Her chocolate hat gets this large red feather in the back, and she really looks like a soldier or a general at war. Also, she forgoes the long sleeves for fluffy shoulders and short red gloves. It's pretty decent. It's not overly simplified in a tacky way, but her default form is just so much more stylish, so much more iconic, and just you can't beat Cure Chocolate's default form. It's absolutely beautiful with the long sleeves, the princely, mysterious feel, and this one just doesn't look as good. And lastly, we have Cure Parfait's final form. This one, like a few others on this list, is a huge downgrade from her default form. But I think Cure Parfait has a good design. I really do like the asymmetry of her dress, with the rainbow ruffles on one side, the bodice being shaped like a parfait cup, the asymmetrical fruits lining one shoulder. It's very creative. I also like how the dress, they have this shading on the white parts to really emphasize that it's glass. I'm curious how that kind of works though. Although I think it looks nice, I wonder if it's like a transparent covering on top of a main part. I was always confused on how that works. But yeah, it just has wonderful asymmetry, and in her a la mode form, they keep the asymmetry on the bottom half of the dress, but on the top, it no longer resembles a parfait glass. Generic perfection. The lines to indicate the shine of the glass are just gone. It's just one shade of blue. The top of the bodice also had what appears to be a scoop of ice cream, also gone. And the most egregious thing, they removed the asymmetrical fruit in favor of super generic, super tacky yellow bands. Why would they do that? Where is the fruit inspiration? Why are they just replacing the unique detail? So yeah, really awful looking super form. I will say though that the group attack Fantastic Animal is really eye-catching and so pleasing to look at. Really vibrant colors. It really does make the forms look good, honestly. Next, we're on to Hugto Precure, my #1 favorite season, and this season's super form is the Cheerful style. The Cures first get this form in episode 31, where they obtain the Memorial Cure Clock and use their new group attack, Cheerful Attack. Starting with Curiel's super form, this one is pretty decent actually. I used to dislike it, so what I didn't like about it before was the dress they added over her skirt. Sometimes it honestly just looks like fabric they just laid on top of the skirt. I feel like it's missing a ruffle or something, but in some artworks, it looks pretty beautiful and elegant. So so I guess it's alright. I do prefer her original Chinese inspired bodice, but this one isn't too bad with the crisscross. What I love most about the cheerful style is the veil they wear. It's very graceful. It's fitting for the season's theme of future and growing up. Also a big fan of the hard bows on their heads. They have this iridescent quality like the small Precure ribbons. And just like what I said with Happiness Charge, I love when there's a bow in the middle of their head. It looks really charming. And lastly, what I like about this form is how her thigh highs get this swirly pattern. They really give me a fairy vibe, maybe reminiscent of Wings Club or some other fairy show. I haven't seen Wings Club, but something about this swirl, it just reminds me of some kind of fairy design. Maybe I've seen it in a cartoon, I just can't remember what it is. Next, we're on to Kira Anja's cheerful style. I think she looks pretty good. Her transparent sleeves become long sleeves. Her shoulder wing cape becomes a shawl instead, and she gets this angelic feather dress which actually suits her unlike Smile Precure Ultra form. Looks much better than Kyriel's additional dress. And lastly, her boots get this really funky white petal type design at the bottom, which I recently realized is supposed to resemble a lily because in the beginning of Hug to Precure in the opening, each of the cures is representative of a flower. And now onto the star of the cheerful forms, literally, because it's Cure Etoile. I think she looks absolutely incredible, the super form. I love Cure Etoile's default form, but this is just a huge upgrade. She gets these really elegant billowy long sleeves. Her puffy skirt becomes a little bit looser, but still has that bunchy quality to it. Her simple garter becomes more ruffly, and her heels turn blue, which adds more contrast. I also just wanted to mention that I love how Cure Etoile's design incorporates blue into it. It really makes her a unique looking yellow cure. And lastly, her ponytail becomes extremely long and curled and is conveniently always placed in front of her. I just love this super form so much. And now onto the one that I hate in this form, which is Kirmatri's form. She had a beautiful skirt in the default form, and this one, she gets a weird petal type look with her skirt, with diamonds hanging off it. There's some weird layering going on here. Under the weird petal skirt, there's a transparent piece. It's just too much going on with the skirt, and they also kind of obscure the thigh-high details. Just too clunky in the dress area. And lastly, we're on to Cure Amour's cheerful style. This one's a bit of a toss-up because I really love Cure Amour's default form. It has a really elegant skirt to it. I like the layering. Her cheerful style is a complete redesign where she basically gets a long, very vertical, slender dress. This form looks really nice and grown up and has a fairy-like quality to it. What makes it look grown up is the fact that she has an ascot, the dress being tubular, and the lace-up heels. The layer of white ruffle coming out from under her bodice is really graceful, and the flowy white underskirt looks really refined. Overall, a beautiful super form. Like with Kirmatri's form though, I think the diamonds hanging off the skirt are extremely random, and although I do like random design elements at times, they can make things look fun, those I just feel are completely unnecessary. Lastly, in the cheerful style, they do end up getting these iridescent butterfly wings, and you know I love me the iridescent pieces. Now we're on to Star Twinkle Precure, another case of shitty super form name. Twinkle style? Wouldn't the default form be Twinkle style? Why not Supernova style or Nebula style? Speaking of which, in the show, the underside of their dresses have this glowing galaxy pattern, which I really like, and similar to the Smile Precure Princess form front bows, it's omitted in some artworks to be simplified. Cure Stars looks pretty good. I like the strong incorporation of yellow in this form to go with her star motif. Honestly, there isn't much else to say with this one. I think it's decent, but not a favorite. I like the intricate crowns in these forms with the colors of the stars representing the cures. Milky's is my favorite of these. Her hair is slightly longer and the transparent Eternal Sailor Senshi bubble sleeves become flowy loose sleeves instead, and she gets a pretty white ribbon on her brooch. I also really like how the bodice adds pink. It's vibrant and it really reminds me of the shooting star symbol they used this season. Cure Soleil looks beautiful. I like the asymmetry on her top with the ruffles only on one arm, the choker getting ruffles, and the addition of translucent magenta all around. She really gives those sun princess vibes. Celine also looks lovely. Her puff sleeves are replaced by a translucent light blue shawl. The blue really works well with the purple, really adds to the night sky theme. Cure Cosmo Superform I'm just not a fan of. I just find it very messy. I don't like the way the skirt looks compared to the original. The gloves having these triangular yellow sections at the top, and just the rainbow colored frills on the bodice. This is just my least favorite. I find it messy looking. Overall, the Twinkle style is a pretty good Superform. They really give the vibe of these galactic space princesses, especially with those crowns. In the Star Twinkle Precure movie, the Cures get constellation forms, and since there's a lot, I'm not going to touch on all of them in detail, but one of my favorites is Cure Milky's Cancer form, love that she's all the greener, and some of my least favorites include Cure Soleil's Libra form, and a bunch of Cure Cosmos forms, which just look crazy. And now we're on to Healing Good Precure, where the super forms are called Special Healing Good style. Well, you got the word special in there, but would have preferred something else like Tranquil form or even Alleviation form. In this form, all of the cures except Sparkle get these long sleeves. It's supposed to go with the whole Dr. Lab Coat motif, but I just don't like them. I do like long sleeves in general, but here I just think they don't look as pretty as their default forms. Cure Sparkles doesn't have long sleeves like I said, but I just prefer her default form. I prefer the brown stockings. Cure Earth's in particular is a glow down, with her default form dress being much prettier and flowier. This form is the equivalent of putting a jacket on over a really stylish outfit. It just looks incredibly lame. Cure Grace has the Guinness World Record of getting the most super forms out of all Precure. The first super form we see her in actually is Super Miracle Grace from Precure Miracle Leap. This one is pretty cool. I like how her hair gets this super pale pink, almost Curiel color. She has a huge hibiscus flower on her head, and she looks completely different from her default form. Pretty good look. Then in the Healing Good movie, the 4 cures get new special forms called the partner forms, which are kimono inspired and have an animal motif based on their animal partner. They're very flowy and wonderful. Grace and Earth are my favorites here, and Fontaine's really does a good job of resembling penguin flippers with the sleeves. At the end of the movie, Cure Grace and Cure Dream get a super form, which annoyed me because I wanted more Yes Precure 5 screen time instead of giving the main characters all the screen time. But anyways, they get this new super form called Dream Cure Grace, a name they both share. So this is Dream Cure Grace and this is Dream Cure Grace.
I'm out of here.
This form does have some pretty details, but I really just don't like the collar area, those white puffy collar parts. It looks like a hoodie. It makes it look like it's a hoodie on top of this dress. I would have preferred a different collar. As if Cure Grace didn't have enough super forms already, at the end of this movie, she gets a form called Kaguya Grace. This form was just unnecessary as fuck because Sherry got 2 forms in this movie. It looks alright, but the partner style is way better. Next up is Tropical Rouge Precure, with the super form being named Excellent Tropical Style. I actually like this name. The usage of the word excellent alone makes it fresh. At least they didn't call them Tropical Rouge forms. I really like these. They all get these unique summery dresses. Super form suitable for walking in the water at the beach. Them being barefoot really goes with the whole beach theme, so I really like that decision. I really love Summer's Excellent Tropical Style. She gets this elegant white shawl cape, gets a loose flowy dress with a soft rainbow inside. Love the triangle earrings, they're very quirky and they add some wackiness. The hair becomes super long and crazy with more pink at the bottom. She truly looks like some kind of tropical fighter. Cure Coral looks so elegant and mature. A purple and white dress, her hair becomes extra long. Previously she only had yellow and pink bows in her hair, but because of the length now, she has another set of bows, with these being blue. The hat unfortunately loses asymmetry and becomes one big hat in the middle, but she does look like this noble magician, and I really like it. Papaya has my least favorite of these super forms. I don't even like Papaya's default form. I don't like the simplification and removal of the ribbons on her skirt. The one thing I do like is those open leg cuffs. They look stylish. Cure Flamingos looks really cool as well. Love the asymmetrical layering on her dress with the white, red, and green, and I really like the leg cuffs. I also like the pastel red feather-esque cape. A few years ago, I actually did a fan art of this form on my old phone, the Note 9, just because I like this form so much. She looks like she could be a ruler of a bird tribe or something mystical in the jungle. And I say this about every super form, but I would have loved to see an individual finisher attack in this form, or just moments where they can exist independently in these forms. But the season ignored you if you weren't Summer or Lemaire, so oh well. Cure Lemaire's form is quite pretty. The hair seems to have more blue than pink in the ombre in this form. I like the mermaid tail dress and how there's a flowy white portion extending from the bust. Really gives an elegant mermaid queen look. But overall, I just do prefer her original form. In the Tropical Rouge Precure movie, the Cures do get a snow crystal tropical style. Cure Summers actually looks pretty awesome. Cure Corals looks absolutely terrible. The loose and oversized fabric on the gloves and leg warmers is giving a throwback to the old Precure super forms. Cure Papaya, too overdone, also giving me old Precure super form vibes, which makes sense because she is the first Cure since Precure Splash Star to have leg warmers. Cure Flamingo, this one is decent. Clearly they went for a Cure Moonlight super silhouette inspiration, which makes sense because they're the serious, taller, and sharper ones on their team, and Cure Lemaire looks pretty good in her form here. Next, we're on to Delicious Party Precure, Party Up style. I really like these super forms. Starting with my number 1 favorite, Cure Precious. She just looks so elegant in this super form. It's kimono inspired. I love that she has this sleeveless top that is enveloped by the long kimono sleeves and the flower brooch with the knot in front. I love the teal ribbons in her hair. Love the thigh high boots and how they retain that Japanese toe detail. She just looks super beautiful in this form. Definitely a top super form for me. And like I'm repeating for the 52nd time, I would have loved to see her fight in this form individually. Imagine those long kimono sleeves flowing and holding the Party Up candle almost like a lightsaber. That would have been really cool to see. This form is especially robbed of screen time because it's not even featured in the attack all that much either. The beginning scene in which the Cures pose with their party candle attacks and state what they symbolize is done in default form, which is pretty stupid. They should have changed into their super forms before this posing scene. Also, there aren't really many clear full body shots of the party up style in this sequence, really. Love this form, just don't like the attack. Cure Spicy's party up style looks really good too. She gets roughly long sleeves. I like how her dress gets another layer of ruffle on top, matching the long sleeves, and her headpiece becomes long, almost like a sun hat. She also gets a belt with a circle, which makes sense because that's her symbol. Cure Yum Yums is my least favorite of these party up styles. Her original form with the tube skirt and the bright contrasting green in her ribbon just looks so much better. Also, I had seen a few people who disliked the fact that her apron has a whole mess of colors, including pink, purple, and cyan, but I actually love this about her. It makes her design super vibrant. She looks way better and more eye-catching in default form. And finally, we have Cure Finale's party up design. I really love her default form, which is already over the top, and her super form is just as extra and stylish. It's very wedding dress coded, and she loses the long sleeves for these transparent puff sleeves with berries just hanging there for dear life. The only thing I don't like about this form is how the berries on her dress, which were originally purple, become red. The purple just added way more contrast, and they're just randomly red here. Love the overall wedding dress look. Party up styles, they're great. I just don't like Cure Yum Yums. In the Delicious Party Precure movie, the Cures get a new special form, Children's Lunch Dress. This form, I actually kinda like it. They look really fun and wacky. My favorite part would have to be the gingham wings, though the party up style is way better. My favorite out of these forms would have to be Cure Finale's Children's Lunch Dress. Love the pudding dress, it looks super cool. I like how the conpeito in her hair is replaced by little apples, and she gets apple slices bordering the top of her pudding dress, and how she gets short purple sleeves, which is a new look for her. Hiroguru's Sky did not have super forms, which I don't mind at all. And finally, the most currently revealed super forms of the Precure series are the diamond ribbon style from Wonderful Precure. I hate these. I think they're really tacky. I think the feathers are super overdone, and these forms in general remove a lot of the fun details of their original outfits. Cure Wonderful's striped stockings, for example. Cure Friendly's default form in general is better than her upgrade. The feathers are just way too crazy looking. I would say with these forms, Nyami and Lillian do look better than Wonderful and Friendly, but still, their original dresses are better. With Lillian's, I do like how they went a little crazy with the ribbon placement in the front. We have a ribbon go diagonally downwards from left to right. It's very quirky, and I oddly like it. I do like the egg hats. Those look nice and quirky. I do see why they went for an egg theme because Nico hatched from an egg, and the sharp white pieces I'm assuming are meant to resemble cracked eggshells, but still, I just hate these forms.
Finish!
Well, there you have it. That is Science Project 99's official Precure Superform tier list. As you can see, Cure March Princess form is the absolute most beautiful of them all. Second place goes to Cure Precious Party Up style. So elegant and graceful. And of course, my least favorite is the Crescendo forms of Sweet Precure. They look fucking ugly. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was long as fuck to make, but it was definitely the most fun I've had on a video.